Hey, everybody, back at Blue Collar Millionaire. Chris and I, happy to be back on a Tuesday, 11 a.m. as usual. Today, we're going to be talking about how to buy businesses, all the different creative things. We're going to kind of do an overview of it, talk about a deal Chris was looking at, a deal I'm looking at now, and different ways you can get into those deals, either with your own funds, other people's money, how you can partner up, how you can be a part of something on so many different levels. Chris, which topic you want to discuss today first?
Yeah, so I just want to come in and kind of set the tone of, my disaster cleanup company. I started it from ground up. And I remember when I first started, my limitation was the money. And that's the reason me and you preach so much about grabbing a business that's already in movement, already has cash flow, already has some systems, some personnel, because you really cut off that learning curve of the startup, because the capital, I've got a mentor that says revenue solves all problems. And when you've got revenue coming in, it really does make you feel a lot more secure. So you make better decisions. You can hire someone to put in place when there's inefficiencies. And so let's start with creative financing, because that seems to be, no matter what industry, what asset class you're talking about, the number one topic that people will say before they get into taking action in buying. They say, well, I just don't have the money, or I don't know anybody with the money, or how do you buy that without being a multimillionaire? So, I mean, one of the things that me and Kevin have learned is consulting to earn the equity. So if you've got a particular skill set, think about what you're doing right now and what you're good at. If you can bring that to the table, and that's going to help scale the business, if that's going to help bring new revenue to the business, which is ultimately going to affect the bottom line, that right there is your negotiating tool when you're talking to a seller of a business, because you don't have to bring money to the table up front. You can literally say, hey, I see you got your business for sale. I see that you're wanting this right here. Tell me more about it. When you get to talking and you hear that they're stuck at this, you're going to hear their pain points. And that's really what it boils down to on creative financing strategies. You need to understand what their pain points are in their current situation, because if you can come in and solve those pain points, then instantly you are a hero and you are helping them move forward in their life. So why would they not want you to come on board, bring a particular skill set? Like maybe it was marketing. Maybe it's, something about that industry. Maybe you can just simply bring in an automated system for them, like a CRM system, to help automate some of the things. They might still be plugged into paper and pencil and carbon paper invoices and estimates. When you bring a digital aspect, that's a skill set that you're able to bring in. So it's going to help you increase volume. It's going to help you increase revenue. And therefore, you can earn a piece of the equity from that. You got anything to add to that, Kevin?
No, I think that's an obvious one is bringing in sales, right? Let's just say a company's doing $400,000 a year in gross sales. If somebody can come in and more than double that, bring it to $1 million of sales, because they're really good at it. They understand marketing. They know how to bring leads in. They know how to take them down. I mean, what's the value of that? Company would be foolish to not take that person on. You have to be able to sell that vision to them. Like, hey, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get you over $1 million of sales. Maybe you do that by showing them for 30 or 60 days and taking a piece of the actual sale, because they're not just going to give up their company. So I've done that with landscaping companies. I used to do it where I would get like complexes for them, and then I'd take a piece of it. And I like that, because I just take a piece of a percentage of the gross, and it's mailbox money. I set it up and everything. Mm-hmm. But, looking back, there's one company in particular, they've grown so much, and a lot of it's from the stuff I got them, because they started making a lot more money, buying more trucks and stuff. I'd rather equity in that company. And anyway, two of the partners had kind of a fallout. I I did get compensated for it. We made a deal, but honestly, I wish I had equity in that deal rather than just a piece of the sales. But so that's what you can do. And I know companies will do this. If you can go to them and tell them, hey, I can increase your sales. It's all on me. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to deliver these sales, put them on, and I want a piece. This is how much I want for each of the sales.
Yep.
If you do that, and then you could quickly pivot after you have a history of them and say, listen, I can keep doing this for you, but I need equity in the company. I would need this, this, and this. And you don't have to threaten them, but it's almost like, if you don't do it, I'm just going to go do it to your competitor. A lot of people hate sales, hate marketing. They like being in the business and the operator. So you absolutely could get equity. Dave Bateman, who's was working for Kyle in Acquisitionpreneur, he started doing it. He's really good SEO, bringing sales. He got equity and ownership. I don't remember the number, but he's making a lot of money off a company up by Philadelphia because he's bringing them so much leads. He's totally changed that business and how many leads. I already know that can happen because a lot of these blue collar companies, they wear it like a badge. Like, I don't do any marketing. I get all mine off referrals. You ever heard that, Chris? Like, that's good. Guess what happens when you get new leads? You get more referrals.
Absolutely.
I hate when people tell me, I only do referrals. Like, they're so good. Yeah, go get new leads and get referrals off those too. It's a snowball effect.
I think it's like you said though, Kevin. I mean, I've watched you've brought a level of confidence anytime you look at a service business, you say, oh man, I can scale that, because you've done it with yours and you know the system. I mean, you go in and plug in these apartment complexes, you know how to communicate with them. And that's what we're talking about, is you bring a level of confidence like that to a seller that's already been in the business. They got in the business because they had a skill set and they said, man, I'm tired of working for somebody else. I'm going to go be my own electrician, my own HVAC, my own plumber, my own carpet cleaner. And what happens, like you said, they don't enjoy the sales aspect of it. They enjoyed being able to do the skill set on a day-to-day basis and not have to tell a boss, can I take off, and have permission like we used to do in school. Raise your hand. Hey, I needed to go to the bathroom. Can I get the hall pass to go to the bathroom? And that's what it boils down to. But that confidence, every one of you guys and girls have a skill set. Think about what you're doing right now and what you're good at. What do you enjoy doing? Me right now, I can sit here and I say, okay, putting operations into a service-based facility, that is something I'm very confident at. Marketing myself on social media, that's something I'm very confident at. Find what you feel confident at and then pitch that to the seller, because the seller's going to eat it up if you can paint a picture. And then I would say, don't lock yourself into a box. That's the thing about creative finance. There's not just one way to do any particular technique. So maybe you would sit there and say, hey, I'm going to bring this and I'm going to take this much percentage of all the new revenue and then make a milestone. Say a year from now, if we hit this milestone, I've got this much equity into the entire company, and get those negotiations and then get a lawyer to write that contract so it's a good contract. And this is how you get in. This is your one way to get a foot in, and now you're an owner of a business and it was zero money out of your pocket.
Yeah, it's a no money way to get in. I love it. And you should go with whatever your kind of superpower is, what you really like. For me, it's sales and everything. I actually had to like slow myself down over the years because I still had to do the work. You know, I still was figuring out the operations and everything. I was doing that for years, or I would slow the sales down because I was so good at getting it. When I look back, I probably should have done what I've done now, or is get involved with other companies and then help them get them and let them do the operations while I get a piece of it. It really works well. So everybody should do it. I talked to Rodney Dawson because he's looking to buy business. I like that. He's a good salesperson. He's good marketing, all that stuff. I told him that's a great way to get into a company with no money.
Yeah, it's huge. And
you prove to yourself that you can do it as well, because that would be, hey, if you just went to hey, Mr. Landscaper owner, I want 25%, I'm going to blow your business up. That's not going to work. But if you show them, I love the idea of like, hey, if I hit this number and this number is high, then we're gonna renegotiate for equity. And if you hit that number and it makes sense to that owner, they're gonna be okay with that. But
Absolutely.
the other one is you put a post about it, operations. If you're a great in operations and you could do that, there's so many companies that need that as well. I mean,
Man,
basically 90% of them need it.
100.
Their operations are a mess.
It's huge, and that's definitely one way to come in. Like, that would be like a joint venture situation
Yeah.
for you real estate guys. I mean, if you can come in with the operation skill set, and then you've got someone over that's more of a visionary, or someone that's just wanting to be, have say so, but they kind of want to be the financial backer. That's a great combination. But again, it goes back to, are you confident in what you bring to the table? Because we don't realize it. We're all salespeople. We may not enjoy sales, but at some level, you're a salesperson. You sell the fact of where you want to go eat. You sell the fact of who you are and why you're desirable to your potential spouse or date. I mean, we're selling something.
We're selling our
constantly.
kids too. I was just
Absolutely.
selling my 3-year-old on why he doesn't want to eat candy for breakfast.
That's
You know, because he's a big boy and only babies eat candy. He didn't like that,
right.
so he didn't want to eat candy anymore.
Right.
I
I
mean,
love it.
we're all doing it.
So yeah, the joint venture is one way. Bring yourself as in operations, and you may not, it doesn't mean you got to have the title of operations manager. What if this is a manufacturing facility and you were over, or a supervisor in the warehouse, or what if you were a field supervisor for a pest control company or landscaping company? Dude, you understand a lot about the operations of that field work, and you could definitely come in as the operator of a company, service-based company like that. And most of those service in-home, on-site service-based companies, their operations look the same across the board, except for the little minutiae of each industry. So you could cross lines from a landscaper to a pest control,
Absolutely.
to a carpet cleaning, to a gutter cleaning, whatever it might be. Um,
That's a great point. If once you can do one, you can pretty much do it.
exactly.
Sometimes somebody will say, "Oh, you don't understand that business. It's this." They're all the same. The
Yeah.
core of
Yeah.
them are the same. Operations is the missing link to a lot of these things. So when I see guys getting businesses under contract, and that's always the question Chris and I were talking about, can they run it?
Yeah.
And the smart investors, I mean, they know that how important that is. If Chris and I were doing a deal with somebody here in Blue Collar Millionaire, we want to be real confident that that guy can operate that, and he just has the right mindset and skill set. So for me, Sean and I are looking to buy this roofing business in Ohio. I feel real confident in every conversation I have him about him operating that, running it. It's just there's
Is it
so
the
many
way he
things about
talks? Is it what he says? Is it his background? Like, what makes you confident in these conversations?
it's kind of a combination of all those. That's a good question, but it's kind of like sometimes when I talk to somebody, they say something that makes me unconfident. Like, yeah, I know about his background. It's not about, he does have a background in that kind of stuff, but it's more just what I see him do, and how he responds to the seller, how he communicates that, everything. I just think he's a really bright guy, and I know he can do it. And I know that I can add kind of my special sauce and really increase the sales and everything, and that he can execute on a high level. So it makes me feel really confident. But I've talked to other people where I didn't feel like they could. It's not that they can't do it. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of learning curve, and that it's going to take a lot of my time. And that's not what I want.
Yeah, yeah. Here's another strategy that I love, and I like to call it the bird dog, because a lot of people really connect and get out into the community, and they don't have a problem being a secret agent. And those type people, when they're out and about and they're telling people, hey, here's what I'm looking for. I mean, it's as simple as when people ask me, how's your day going? Man, I'm doing fantastic. Business is doing good. We're constantly looking for good team members so that we can keep expanding. That was me asking and telling them, hey, I need to hire some folks. And that triggers something. Same thing if I'm wanting to get my real estate message out. Man, looking to buy some more houses, if you know of any deals or you know anybody selling. Well, the same thing would be for businesses. When they're out and about talking to their community, they would just simply be saying, we're looking for businesses. I've got some partners that are ready to buy, and we're trying to find some owners that are ready to sell. And those type people, it's a real easy conversion to be a bird dog and bring a deal to someone like me and Kevin that's saying, hey, we're looking for businesses to buy. Now, you took all of that time and effort and marketing expense that it takes to find these deals. You took all of that out of the equation and you bring something and lay it up on a silver platter and say, here it is. Here's what it looks like. Here's the details. Are you interested? Is this something that fits your buy box? That's worth a chunk of money and or equity.
Absolutely.
Depending on the size of the company. So that's one real easy way to get your hand into purchasing a business. Another way, and, Kevin, I've heard you mention this a lot, is private money is something you've got to start digging the well for now.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it's like anything. If you go to the bank when you have no credit, they're not going to, when you need it and you never talked to them before, they're not going to give it to you. It's the same thing with investors. Nobody's ever heard about what you're doing. They don't know you're looking to buy businesses. You've never had a conversation. And then you go to your cousin at the barbecue and you're like, hey, you want to get in on this deal? He doesn't even know. You have to start digging that well before you're thirsty. So let's take the cousin, for example, or your buddy your neighbor, or somebody in your networking group. You have to start telling them what you're doing. You have to articulate it and communicate it and make them feel confident. You can tell them about a deal either that you did, but if you didn't do one, just a deal that you're looking at. Like, look at my post from last Friday. I got a lot of messages off that.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm telling people what I'm doing. I'm probably not going to do that deal, but it's still out there that, like, okay, this guy's doing deals. And the way I wrote that up, you could see, like, yeah, this guy kind of knows what he's doing. He's got his shit together. I could see wanting to invest in that. So if there's somebody who's like a dentist and he works a job and he's in people's mouth and he's making good money, but he doesn't want to do this, he doesn't know how to do this, that's kind of the person you want to talk to, because they want to make money on their money and they want to be a part of this, but they have no idea how to do it. So you could just start having those conversations with them. And then when you do need it, it's like your sixth or seventh thing. They've seen you on social media. They've seen you doing it. They've had conversations. They heard from a person in common that you are looking at buying this big pool business in Florida. You've already gotten confidence from them. And then when you say, hey, I remember when we talked, I have a deal coming up. If you're interested, I can kind of walk you through it on a Zoom. It'll take about 10 or 15 minutes. That person's going to be much more responsive.
I think it's just we need to hear these triggers when we're talking to people, because when they say, how are you doing? What's going on? What's up? Have you been? That is your automatic response to give them an ad, to pitch what you were looking for. And it doesn't have to sound pitchy. You just simply roll right into, been doing fantastic. Me and my team that we've been building up techniques on how to get into buying businesses, or we're looking for businesses to buy that owners are tired and can't find anybody that wants to sell them. We're looking for ugly businesses, whatever. Pitch it some way. And that's digging the well. Utilize your social media. That's something that I know the people I hang out with understand that and do it. It's just like Kevin was talking about his post and he got a bunch of response from it. But a lot of people still haven't gotten past that hurdle of using their social media. And it's an easy way. You could sit here and take a picture of this screen right here on your screenshot it on your phone or from the computer, and then post just saying, leveling up new skill sets with my team. You leverage other people that have experience. Even
Absolutely.
if you have not formed a partnership, they can still be your potential team. And that's how you sell yourself on social media. And then people watching are like, oh man, he's looking to buy businesses. And they see you do this repetitively every
Yes.
week, every other day, every day. What as much as possible, anytime you're doing any efforts towards buying a business, research, training, actually calling the potential sellers, the brokers, any of that, you should be taking a short clip of video or a long clip, set your phone up, and then just edit it to a portion that sounds good and post it on your
I like that
platform.
one.
I mean, this is how you get out of obscurity, and this is how you let people know I've raised money this way. I get deal flow this way, and it's because I'm constantly telling people what I'm doing, what I'm looking for.
I like that idea right there. Taking quick little edited videos of you calling brokers.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it
you don't even
shows.
have to, you don't have to dress them up. You don't have to, you see these people with the words popping up where they've used VAs or do their self. You don't even have to, it can be way more raw. It can be the actual video and you just chop it so it's timely and then
Well,
post it.
Chris, let's talk about you in particular. From me, I knew before I ever spoke with Chris that you were buying properties, that you were running a business, that
Yeah.
you were in connection and contact with other people I already talked to, John
Yep.
Crutchfield and
Yep.
stuff. The same thing with like Jennings Smith, who came on our show. I knew he was buying properties and doing
Yeah.
stuff before I ever spoke to him, because he was putting it out there and I was watching him and I was like, oh, this guy's doing something. And then I just saw it over and over. And I'm like, wow, this guy's, it's going for 1,000 units. He's really doing something.
Yeah.
It wasn't the first post or the third, but by the time I saw like 17, I had it in my head, like this guy's doing something. And he wasn't bullshitting. He wasn't, you don't go on there and people want to show on Instagram, they'll just show like a picture of Ferrari. They think they're good. It doesn't
Right.
work that way. You
Right.
just show what you're doing over and over, and people will see it and they'll want to be a part of that. The second part of that is there's a lot of people who want to be a part of something, but they don't know how to do it. And if they feel like you know much more than them, they'll want to almost ride your coattails into it. A perfect example is I had a phone call on Friday with a friend of mine, and he said, man, I love what you're doing, that post. Are you going to buy that business? He was asking me all these questions. So I said, I don't know if I'll buy that one, but I'm definitely looking to buy more. And I might sell my company, and this is what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to get involved in other companies and get 25 or 30%. And he said, hey, I don't know how to do that. I don't really want to do, but I want to be a part of it. So I said, well, so then I heard that. So I said, yeah, you don't have to do anything. I'll do it. I know what I'm doing. You could be passive. I like passive investors. And then I said, if you want to be passive, get a return, but then get a piece of the profits and the upside, you can do that too. So I said, what are you looking to invest? And I thought he was going to tell me like 50 or 100 grand, because I know he makes money, but he said, yeah, I'm sitting on like $700,000. He sold a property. He didn't do a 1031 exchange. He's sitting on this thing. He's going to get killed on taxes. He wants to get in it. So I was kind of like, oh, wow. Like you never know who you're talking. I did not know he was sitting on money like that.
That's why you got to tell your story.
I knew he's a successful guy. Yeah, but I just didn't know he was like, but he's smart enough to know, hey, I'd rather stick a few $100 grand with Kevin. Maybe he can, double that over 5-7 years for me and make a nice return, and I'll go do my own job. He's got a really good job. He's doing really well. So you never know who.
Well, I mean, it just pulls back to relationship capital is what it is. I mean, you've got to shake the hands. You've got to communicate. You got to make the phone calls, because money passes through hands. And when people don't know what you're doing, they don't know to even give you the money. They don't know you need it, want it, or have an opportunity for it. And we're in this digital day and age where we can leverage social media. And here's something that happens when you guys are sitting here posting about, watching Blue Collar Millionaire Leveling Up, listening to M&A podcast, anything that you're posting, people are watching it and they get a sense of confidence because you stay consistent in the simple fact of posting what you're doing. So if you're consistent in posting, then you got to be consistent in actually performing in this space. And more importantly, they feel like you are consistent because they see you posting interactions of what you do on a daily basis. It's powerful, and everybody wants to. It's a level of trust. And if you're looking for someone's money, they need to know that you're going to preserve their capital. Yeah, they want a return, but more than anything else, they want to make sure they're getting their money returned back to them at the
Absolutely.
end of the period that you've promised. So you've got to paint that picture that you're consistent, that you're trustworthy, that you've got the character to carry on. So far we've gone over consult for equity. We've gone over private money. We've gone over the bird dog, finding the deal. We've gone over a joint venture. What about an earnout? Kevin, you got any? I think an earnout is a pretty cool way to where you can come in. It's a business that's just kind of in shambles, and you come in. It's real similar, I think, for consulting to equity. But you're going to come in and you say, hey, here's my plan for this. This is what I see going on. This is what we can do to better this. And here's what we can do to make this thing a sellable asset. So maybe you get a very small base pay, almost like a W-2 employee would earn. And all of your efforts are going to get paid on the back end when you take it to sell it. You've helped cultivate and create a retirement plan for this business owner that just really didn't have the energy or know-how to do it. They would have just dissolved the business, maybe sold the assets for a small percentage, and then walked away and hoped that they paid enough in Social Security that they'll be able to live. And in this manner, you'll be able to give them a big chunk, and you get a big chunk and portion of that because you're able to come in and help take it to the finish line is what it boils down to.
Yeah, I like the earn out method. It's a great way to get in with a company that maybe needs a lot of help, and you're basically not making money for a while, but you believe that in 2 years you're going to be able to package that, sell it, make it perfect, and take it to market. Kind of like buying going in and buying a crappy house in a nice neighborhood, and you're like, hey, I'm going to come in here and we're going to clean this all up, and I know at the end of this, those houses down the street go for $700,000, and I want a piece of that. A lot of
Absolutely.
that people do that in real estate.
It's a flip.
Yeah,
That's
I
all it
did
is.
that. I did that in my 20s with somebody on real estate, an older guy. He knew it was worth it. He didn't want to put the work. I was in there with my guys doing it, and we ended up basically increasing the value about $90,000, and I think I took like 42 of it. It was a win-win. So you could do it with businesses as well. Yeah, there's so many ways, but all these things have one thing in common. You're not going to get paid for 6 months or a year, or really make much money. That's kind of the truth of anything where you're going to make a lot of money. Anything. If you need money today and you say, well, I don't have 6 months, I got bills now. Okay, well, then you got to work your job or whatever you're doing right now. And then you have to carve time out at night, weekends, early mornings, whatever it is. If you do that and you consistently do it, in 6 months, it could be massive. You could say, wow, I did this for 2 hours every night. And after 6 months, now I have all this flow coming. So that could be streams of income. Or same thing if you're looking to raise money. If you're looking to buy a business and you have no investors in your sphere right now, you're not going to buy a business for 6 months, right? It's going to take you 6 months to do that. So you're going to have to start posting. You're going to have to start talking to people. You're going to have to start getting in networking groups. You're going to have to start getting around with people with money. But in the course of 6 months, you might have 10 people trying to give you $100,000 or 20 people. Look at Ryan Dumas. Have you ever watched him, Chris?
I have not.
He's a multifamily investor. I mean, this guy he puts his own posts. He couldn't raise $1 like a year and a half ago. I mean, he's raising like $5 and $7 million for deals now. Crazy amounts.
Man.
But I was on his phone calls. That guy was hungry. He wasn't, hey, Kevin, give me money. He was just talking about what he's doing. Hey, I have a financing background. I lend on these. I find incredible deals. I'm looking for guys. Yeah, he was compelling, and he's doing a lot of deals now. But he didn't do it it took him about 6 months or a year to really get going.
I think that's a separator, what you just hit on, is between those that are doing big things and those that are wanting to do big things. It's the fact that those are doing big things are willing to make the investment now for a future payoff.
Yeah.
And the others, I mean, we're taught in society, all of the marketing and branding that we look at is, bake your cake and eat it today. I mean, it's just like instant gratification. But the reality is wealth does not come that way. You make investments every single day, and then later down the road, you'll start seeing the returns of it. It's just like a farmer. Man, he doesn't plant the seed and then eat from the harvest the same day or the next day. I mean, it takes a full season for him to be able to harvest what he's planted at the early portion of the season, and then he gets to eat. And it's the same way with money. I mean, there are truths about life that go across everything in life, and that's just one of them. If you want to reap a big harvest of financial to eat from financially, then you're going to have to start making the investments now for many tomorrows later.
There's no way around it. It's like working out. If you want to look really good, you're not going to look any different next Sunday, even though you killed yourself for 7 days in the gym.
Right.
And most people get to 2 weeks and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't work."
Yep.
It doesn't work. It does work. You got to stick with it.
Owner finance is another way. I mean, I think we're all familiar with that term and what that consists of. So I'll kind of communicate my little small tanning salon deal that I was working on. First of all, I used the word small because it was a small deal. And this is a trap that a lot of us will get into, is we'll see something and we're comfortable because it's small, because the extra zeros will make us uncomfortable. And I don't want you to make that mistake, because it's very easy. And the reality is it's the same time, the same effort, and all you're doing is adding zeros. So are you going to put the time and effort towards the small numbers, or are you going to put it towards the big numbers? So I had made a post leveraging my social media, and I said, I'm looking for businesses to buy. I got several responses back, and one of them intrigued me because I thought, okay, I can automate this. And it was a tanning salon, just a standalone, not a gym or anything else. And I wanted something that was going to give me monthly reoccurring revenue, so that it was a steady, you can almost count on. It's just easier when you know you got something coming in every single month. You can sit there and make plans easier than when you have a roller coaster ride with revenue. That's why monthly recurring revenue is important. So I sat there and looked at it, and then I thought, okay, I got on the website, I got on its social media platform. I realized they had hours set. It wasn't a 24/7 situation. I saw that they had staffing in place. There wasn't any automation. So I decided I would go visit in person because it was here local. I went to the store and realized that it was outdated. Not really any improvements had been made to the interior structure so that it was aesthetically pleasing. The exterior, the building wasn't that great looking, so it wasn't inviting. And then I also learned that their packages were like 40, 50 different packages you could choose from. So I just simply came in and did a secret shopper type thing and said, hey, I'm going to the beach, want to get a base tan, looking to tan. Can you give me some information? And then I get this little copy sheet front and back with all these different packages, level 1, 2, 3, 4 beds, stand-up beds, infrared beds. I was like, I have no clue. So my upside of that is I said, great, I'm going to plug in a door system so I can get keyed entry any time of the day, just like a 24-hour gym would. I'm going to put a camera up so I've got some security since there's not going to be a person there. I'm going to do a flat rate fee so you can lay unlimited times you want for a monthly fee that's auto renewing. So for you to kill the renew, you're going to have to make a phone call or an email or something. And all of this was going to allow me to automate it. So what I'm going to do is be able to remove a lot of my labor, increase my sales because now it's more available to the general public and you don't have these set times. So if you work during that time or whatever, and honestly, it catered towards your stay-at-home moms because it was an 8 to 6 instead of after hours when everybody's getting off of work. So if you didn't have a long lunchtime, they probably weren't using it. And I was looking at it. So I got interested because I saw the upside. I sat down, told the broker, hey, let me talk to the seller. We sat down and spoke to the seller, and the seller said, hey, it's $65,000 in cash flow a year. He said, I've got a lot more things in my portfolio. He's an entrepreneur. And he said, I'm trying to not be so diversified at this point, because he was going into the food industry chain in a big way. So he said, that's the reason I'm getting rid of it. What was happening is I sat down with the seller because I wanted to find out why he wanted to sell. Because he said the general manager there pretty much ran it. He just, checked the money, and it was vacation money for him each year. And so I thought, well, if it's that easy, why are you wanting to sell it? So he starts giving me his reasons. Long story short, I get an education of why he's selling, what the business is about. And so in that process, I discovered that he's already when he bought it, it was owner finance to him. So he opened the door for what I was already going to ask for, which was owner financing. But I never would have known about it, and I probably would have been a little less confident to ask for it if I hadn't heard his story and gave him the chance to tell me. So at that point, I began to say, well, look, I'm kind of in the same position that you were before, and I'm looking to have some owner financing as well. I said, you're wanting this price right here. I can give you full asking price, or I can give you half of what you're asking for, or if you'll owner finance, I'll give you full asking price. So I gave him two options. Do you want to stick to your price and do terms with me, or do you want to do a lesser price? And that makes more sense to me financially. And I just told him I can take this money and I can get a higher return somewhere else with your full asking price right now. That's why we have to do terms. I was trying to be transparent with them. So we negotiated the terms. We negotiated an interest only the first year. It was a 3-year loan. It was going to be a 6-year amortized loan. And we got through that negotiation process, agreed on terms, but we got towards the finish line. And as I started communicating with the staff, I realized that there was a lot of really long-term packages, and he wasn't willing to prorate those packages. So we ended up, the deal died right before we were supposed to close, for the simple fact that he said, I'm not going to produce a year-to-date P&L, and I'm not going to prorate the already sold tanning packages. So not every deal is going to go through, but if you don't sit there and do your due diligence and investigate it, then you're not going to know these things. That's why it's so important to ask good questions and also find out where the problems are so that you can solve those problems so that you can get paid on the back end. So that's my owner financing process. The deal didn't go through. It was too small. I'm glad it didn't go through, because Kevin, I need to be thinking about more zeros behind it. I like what Wesley came in with, his $2 million net profit company that he bought. That when I heard that, I was like, shit, what am I doing over here with $65,000 a year?
I love this story. Let's talk about the zeros thing. So the Sean deal I'm doing with is not nearly as big as Wesley's, way smaller. But Sean said something interesting to me. He said, yeah, I see Wesley and these guys doing it. Maybe I should be going with bigger zeros. But I said, the thing I like about it, there's so much upside on this business he's buying. And I already know it's roofing. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to blow it up. If we get to the table, the sales and everything, there's still a few things to go. But I said, what's going to happen in a year, you're going to be much better off because you're going to have really little debt, and we're going to have major sales coming through. So I like the bigger businesses with zeros, but sometimes you can take a small business that's just there's so many opportunities that they're missing. And if you have that background and you say, I already know what's going to happen. Plus I'm going to plug it in to all my Gutter King customers, all the complexes in that area. So it's a bolt on it on some levels, even though it's going to be separate company. So that's the only time I would go with smaller zeros. The other reason I would go with smaller zeros is the only reason you're going to have to is you didn't get investors. So now you're looking at stuff that you feel like you can afford, or you only have one investor who wants to bring 50 grand. You're much better off looking at bigger zeros and then bringing in investors. There's just so much more money to go around, and you can hire better people, and you can take it to a bigger level. I'll tell you a quick story of a little job I did. I want people to realize how this, I think people equate this to real estate. I love this analogy. It's kind of like if you were selling a house and you had 17 open houses and nobody made an offer, or one guy made an offer and didn't come through. And you know, in the beginning, when you're selling a house, if you ever sold it and you live there, you got to keep it really clean. The realtor told you, and you're like, get the hamper, get everything out. You got to make it perfect. But if that person kept coming around 25 times, I had a friend in 2008, like he said, like his realtor came by like 100 times. At the end, he didn't even care if food was out or whatever. That's what some of these owners are like. They have seller fatigue. They haven't done it. So here's a quick story. I did this like, I think 21 or 22. I mean, talk about winging it, but I just thought I knew everything. I just did anything. I had a landscaping business. I was making money. And I heard from another friend of mine that him and his brother, they had a landscaping business. They were trying to buy part of somebody else's landscaping business because the guy's wife was moving to Arizona, got a really good job, and he wanted to unload part of the customers. So it fell through. They wasted this guy's time for 3 months. They couldn't get it done. And then one day I just called this guy and I said, hey, what do you want for that? This is the numbers. It's kind of foggy, but the guy was grossing like 38 grand off this one route he was making. This is a long time ago. So that was kind of good money.
Yeah.
And he said, I want 45,000. I said, 45,000. I mean, here, I'm like 21 years old. And he was like, yeah. And if you do 50, I'll throw in the truck. The truck's worth 9 grand or whatever. It was this mason dump. I said, bro, no, I'm not doing that. I could just go get those customers for much easier. I already have that many customers. I'll just repeat what I'm doing. A week later, he calls me back. Hey, man, I'm probably going to do like 38, 37 grand. I remember he was like coming down in the phone call, 38 or 37. So I'm like, wait a second, what's going on here? A month later, he was talking about 24 grand with me. And I had already told him, hey, I only have 12 grand cash that I can put out. And we started talking about doing 12 grand and him doing some seller financing. And I'd pay him over a year and everything. And then I just was like, no, I don't even want to do that. I kind of started curving him again. So one day I'm driving my truck with one of my guys cutting lawns. We go by his house. They literally have a moving truck. Him and his wife are moving.
I was motivated seller, man.
There's no cell phones in here. So I turn around, I come back. And his name was Mike. I said, Mike, what are you doing? You're not selling the business now? He was like, oh, man, this other guy was going to do it. Let's make a deal. He goes, I can do 16. And you do the 12. You got 12. I said, I don't have 12 anymore. I got like 8. And then he's like, the truck is worth 8. I'm going to sell it. I got a guy who wants to pay 9,300. I said, you want 93? You want 8? And then I'll pay you. I'll pay you over a year and I'll do it. I end up doing the deal. I basically got a $9,000 truck and he had like $36,000 worth of gross lawns. I mean, for 7 grand, but he financed it to me over a year. I think the interest rate was 8%. I remember he wanted like 12%. And I was again like, nah, I don't want to do it then. He was like, all right, 8%. But I paid him off in like 6 months because it was so easy to do. And then I went into those customers. I brought them into gutter cleaning. I used to do window washing for these rich people. I got them like half of them on window cleaning. I made so much money off this guy because they have nowhere to go. That business was going to die. His story would be he's 60 years old. He's like, yeah, I had a landscaping business. I moved. I let it go. I sold the truck. That was going to happen to him. Literally, he was packing his truck up when I was making that deal on his driveway.
Something's better than nothing. And that was a motivated seller. But dude, here's why I love that story is because it lets you know that there are deals out there everywhere. And we mentally will block ourselves thinking, well, there's no deals out there because nobody wants to sell. Why would they sell, cash flow like that? Why would they sell if they were making 150,000 in cash flow? Why would they sell it for 100? Who knows why they would sell it for 100, but they will sell it for that. So why not ask? Why not have the conversation, start the process, know that you got some creative financing techniques, know that you can partner up with
Yeah.
someone if there's inefficiency in your skill set and you just don't have the belief system that you can do it. And honestly, it's a very smart move to partner up with someone if you've never done it before, because that's going to help curve the failures that are going to happen, because that's just a part of life. You're going to hit failures, but the goal is to hit as few as possible by leveraging other people's experience.
And that deal I'm talking about, it doesn't work as a standalone deal. That's why he couldn't sell it, because nobody wants to come in and buy this little business. They got a job. They can't make enough money doing it. But for me, it worked because it was a bolt-on.
Yeah.
I was getting your truck. I already had, like, I'll just grab another couple mowers. He actually put some weed whackers, some other stuff in there, but all I had to do was bolt on to what I was doing, so it made sense. So that had me thinking, but I didn't act on it. Like back then I was like, wait, I could just buy these little things and just add them to mine. Kyle Manning calls it roll up city. You know, you roll up all these things. That's a great way to do it as well. Hey, one thing I wanted to say on the bird dog thing. This is a kind of a pet peeve for me. And I'm going to tell you why. When you were asking me about Sean, he did the exact opposite. When you bring deals to people and you want them to get involved, investors, you got to know that deal inside and out. You don't have to know everything it's new, but you got to be able to present it. Why is it a good deal? Some people just send me stuff and it's like 6 million. And I look at it real quick, Chris. It's like it's netting 800,000. It's for 6 million. I just kill it. But I'll ask that person, why is this a good deal? Why? They don't know why it's a good deal. They're just like sending you stuff. You need to take your time, take a half hour, look through the profit and loss, and you'll build confidence in that investor when you come to them, because you can use that as as an asset. Even if the deal doesn't go through, they're going to see, wow, this guy's on it. And you might even tell that seller, hey, that investor, I'm not going to do this deal because the owner's doing this. I think there's something better out there. I think I don't want it. You could build confidence in him.
Absolutely, man.
Even with a deal that doesn't go through. And now you got that guy's chomping at the bit like, wow, I like that this guy walked away from this deal, even though it sounded good. But you can't just kind of like say, hey, do you want to do this deal and just forward them numbers? You got to know that deal and why. You have to articulate it. So Sean had already brought me 2 other deals. They were both pretty good too. Probably could have did them, and he kind of killed them for some reasons. Yeah. So when he brought me this one, it was better. I was like, yeah, he's vetting this stuff.
You can tell when it's real. And that's the thing about it is, if don't get on Biz Buy Sell and screenshot something and send it and then expect to get a piece of anything, because anybody can go on that site and see it. But now if you want to make a call to the seller and get some of the information, and then you have a presentation you can bring to a potential partner, a potential investor, then now there's some credibility. There's something for us to actually look, because you've actually put some effort in. Anybody that's worth their weight is going to be able to see if you're bringing an offer or if you're asking for a handout. Because if you just bring a for sale sign and say, hey, this for sale sign sitting in front of this or whatever, that's asking for a handout. Bring us something of value, because anybody
Chris, have you ever had some, oh man, this drives me nuts. Somebody tells you about something, they do no effort. They don't, and then they're like, hey, if that goes through, hook me up, right? You're going to take care of me, right? Take care of you for what? What did you do?
Yeah.
I had a guy send me like an address for like a 20 unit, like 20 years ago, like, hey, if you buy that, you're going to hook me up, right? For what? What are you doing?
Yeah.
He doesn't even know the owner. If he had negotiated it, got it for a really good, of course you're going to get involved. So
absolutely.
And don't waste people's time. And the more deals you look at, the more reps. So you'll get better and better at this. I think everybody who's really going to do this, if you're committed, you got to go to Kyle's thing.
I agree.
If I don't know, what is it, cost $5,000? That's a steal. If the networking alone is worth way more than $5,000, plus all the strategies. If you're not going to pay $5,000 for it, are you really going to buy a business? I don't believe it.
Well, here's what it boils down to. Like, everybody's at different levels. Kevin, you've got a higher level on several things when it comes to back acquisitions compared to what I've got. There's people watching that I've got higher levels on the scale than what they've got. Me and Kevin both haven't invested time and money and energy into going to Kyle and Michael's events, because these guys have a higher level that they're operating at when it comes to business acquisitions. They are coaches to us. I mean, we sit there and invest into their information. We read their posts they're posting. And that's the importance. Anytime you're listening to someone, you better make sure that they're also investing into their education and they're not just sitting at a plateau. So since you brought it up, I put the link. It was several days later when we had Michael on. I did put the link to their event in Austin. I'm going to put that link to Acquisitionpreneur, Kyle and Michael's event that's happening in November. If you're serious about buying businesses, you need to go level up and go to that event. It is the best acquisitions event that I am aware of. And for $5,000 to have a potential to make $5 million, I mean, come on. Y'all have got to get past your limited thinking if you think 5,000 is expensive. I don't care if you don't have it. He's even got people in his inner circle that used a credit card to pay for that education to go to that event, and now they are owning businesses with real cash flow. Whatever it takes needs to be your attitude.
All these ways we were talking about, all these strategies, and he's going to talk about way more in 3 days. If anybody just said, and they had a job, they said, hey, I'm dedicating 2 hours every evening or morning to this. And there's, to me, if they're focused and did that, it's impossible they wouldn't have made a lot of money in a year. Look at Wesley. Look at Alex Scharf. I know him. I was trying to get in that deal with him. He just closed it. It's a garage door opener.
Yeah.
It's going to make over $500,000 a year net.
Yeah. I like how you put that. That was digestible. I mean, spend an hour on it every day. Hop on Biz Buy Sell.
Hour. You don't need 2 hours.
Yeah. Hop on Biz Buy Sell, spend an hour every single day. And in a matter of 30 days, you're going to be so much more confident on analyzing businesses, and you'll start to learn new lingo. There's, you got lingo for every industry. So you need to know what FF&E is. You need to understand those type of words and what a P&L and a balance sheet and all this other stuff is. And so, real quick.
All that, and you can learn how to read a profit and loss statement on YouTube. There's like 182 videos.
Yeah. Utilize the resource of all right. So real quick, I'm going to run through this list because I know we're getting short on time, but if you're wanting to be an operator, me and Kevin have had this conversation before. Here's some of the things that we would be looking for. We're looking for experience in that particular skill set. So if you're used to running a manufacturing company over here, and now you're trying to go plug in to a technology software company as an operator, I'm not going to believe that you're able to run that because you're used to manufacturing. You've never messed with software company. Having a track record to show endurance. If you're a job hopper and you've not showed consistency to let me know that you're in it for the long haul, I'm an out as well. That's why I'm asking, what's your background? What have you been doing? How long you were there? This is just like a job interview when it comes down to, can we expect what needs to come from you based off of your past? Coachable, to know that you're willing to pivot because it is a team. And if you are set in your ways, this is how I've always done it, but now the market's changed and this is how we need to do it. You got to be coachable. You got to get the vision of what the owners, the general partners are wanting to go with that company. If you don't get that vision, it's going to be very noticeable, and it's just not a good marriage there. Because these partnerships do feel like a marriage. It's even more important because money is the sole denominator with a business, where at least you got sex when you're with a relationship. You need to be mobile because a lot of times you're going to have to move to a different state to be local for this operation of the company. And then I think probably one of the most important is leadership skill sets. I want to see that you've been in some type of leadership ability. I want to know that you've had those opportunities to lead a team, because as an operator, that's exactly what you're going to be doing in a business that is scaling up.
I love all those reasons. And you got to be humble if you don't have those things. A, to be kind of this number two in charge on operations and learn it. You can find another way in on it. You have to be honest with what you're doing. Kyle they have so many deals. You got to follow him on Facebook if you aren't. Michael and him are looking for more operators who are willing to relocate, come in, get equity in a company, get a salary, maybe like 75, 80 grand, and then just grind it out for 2-3 years. To me, if you don't have really any money and you have the opportunity to do that, can you imagine how much that person's going to learn? It's
huge.
Yeah, they're going to make a lot of money. They're going to make money. But then after 2 years, 3 years, they're going to sell that and they're going to be all lined up to do anything they want. But people, I don't know. Sometimes I think people don't want to do that. They just want to jump in and be able to do it. That's a great way to do it as well. If you can't do some of these techniques and you just say, hey, I'll go out there and I'll learn, I'll be humble, I'll listen, and I know I'll show up for 60, 70 hours a week. That's a great way to get in on deals. And if you had those qualifications, Chris, that you were just saying, yeah, like you're not just a job hopper, you're disciplined, you're showing up. I mean, you could also get in a deal with us, Chris.
Yeah. And if you don't have them, start working on them. Like today is the best day to start. The best day was 20 years ago. Right now is the best day for your future. Okay. So let's just do it, man. We're getting short on time. We've gone over a bunch of stuff. I'm sure it was like a fire hose. If you guys have questions, don't forget, we've got the mastermind coming up at the beginning of next year, and got some really cool stuff. Kevin's been talking about it a little bit. It's going to be a very small, select amount of people in there so that we can really help increase your situation, because the goal is for you to walk away and see massive leaps financially, because you've got 1 or 2 actionable items that you're able to walk away with and implement. Super excited about it. Great area down on the beach in Florida. So
I just put it in the post. It starts on January 26th. It's going to start in the evening. We got this insane, I think it's like a $13 million home on the water. We're going to have drinks, networking that first night. Then we're going to, go over all kinds of stuff to help you guys scale business. This is really for guys who already have businesses, because it's not going to be a beginner course. The sales, will be people at different levels, but we're going to show you how to do millions of dollars, and we're going to work with you one-on-one. That's the thing that's going to be different, Chris, from our mastermind on some of the other ones. It's going to have all the good things, cool steak dinner and cool stuff and a house and networking, but it's also going to have one-on-one. We're going to sit down with you and really go over your business, over your numbers. What are avenues you might not see? Get a separate set of eyes on there. How can we grow it? And then walk out of there with 3, 4, 5 things, not 122 things, 3, 4, or 5 things you can work on. It's specifically being done in January so that you can work on them in February, and on March, you're ready to go. You're making money.
Love it, man.
I mean, I do this for people's businesses now. I like doing it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's 3 things. And they're like, hey, I didn't even see that. And I say, hey, you want to go over this? Like, I just do it for a half hour on the phone. Imagine when we're sitting down there for 2 hours and I'm there the whole time and say, hey, I don't understand that. Show me this again. I'll go, let's go do it again.
It's like a board of directors, man.
And then
it's huge.
I like this stuff. It's like, I want to see guys win. So if you're committed to that, just reach out to us. It's going to be small. So I know we already had a bunch of people reach out. Some people maybe aren't in the right position right now. Their businesses, they're just starting or whatever, but just reach out and we'll let you know, because we want to make sure you're going to get the most out of it.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, Chris.